Okay, hi everybody. Good afternoon. So I had wrote a comment at the bottom of the Facebook screen, if you can see it, if you're on live, giving everybody about 5 minutes to come in. So right now it's about 12:05. So we're going to get started because I have a lot of material to discuss and I hope I can finish it in this hour. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Chrissy Sanchez. I'm a licensed broker here in Jacksonville, Florida, in St. Johns County. I'm a broker. I have also my sales agent license in Texas, where I first started almost 10 years ago. So I have a roundabout or a variety of experience in real estate and mental health and business and corporate, in education, teaching. So if you go to my website, www.chrissysanchez.com, you can read all about it there, a little bit about my bio and what I do. Also, you can go to my Instagram page at chrissy.sanchez_broker or my Facebook page, which is just Chrissy Sanchez. So we're going to get started. Today's topic, I've been very excited to discuss this topic because it's not often talked about, and sometimes I think terms get confused in what the term is leadership, and that's what we're going to talk about today. The way you lead shapes the legacy you leave. We're going to talk about leadership styles. There are 5 styles, and I'm going to do my best to try to give you the best examples that I can give you for each one, and you can see which one you fall into, and see, which one is best for you, and so forth. And it kind of helps identify too with yourself and personality. Again, this is for business leaders, CEOs, entrepreneurs, presidents, supervisors, managers. If you're working for a company, if you have your own company. My lives, if you haven't attended them yet, are pretty raw. So I call it like it is. And everything that I always talk about is a combination of either experience it or being in the room of somebody. And just really going through life. I'm almost 50 years old. Not that you need to know that, but I have done almost half my life. Do I know everything? No. But I feel like it's my purpose or my mission to share with you some of these things that are not talked about. I save this live leadership. I have previous talks on my YouTube channel, and I'll post that so you can later on, so you can kind of freshen up. If you haven't listened to one of my lives before, you can go on there. Each of them are about an hour, a little bit over. Sometimes there's a part 2 because there's just so much to say about a topic, and these are not topics that you can just graze over. These are topics that I said that are not often talked about. Also, I just want to make one point before we get started, because for anyone listening, sometimes social media or however they understood what I'm saying, sometimes gets taken out of context. So I never talk about politics and I never talk about religion. And that is one of the things that you learn early on, whatever career you're in. That should never be a part of your decision making, unless obviously you're voting for a board member or a president or something like that. aside from values and personality and who you think would be best fit. But this is not what we're about today. This is strictly about leadership styles and the legacy that you want to leave behind. A lot of times people that either run companies or they own a company or a business, small, medium, large, they sometimes when they get so excited to start that business, and sometimes they either know what their purpose is or they don't. And a lot of times because of whatever experience they had or life, maybe they thought at the time or the environment that they grew up in, or maybe the environment that they had their first job in, their mentors, etc., along the way and in their career. If you look around, everybody is a mentor, pretty much. I know that's kind of weird because people think, oh, a mentor is somebody who should be coaching you, who leading you, somebody you can go to. Well, yes, that's a part of it, but you should be going whenever you're in a room and you read your environment. Everybody is really somebody you can learn from. And you take that and you say, okay, that's a good fit for me, whatever I'm learning or whatever I'm seeing or reading from that person, or it's just not a good fit for me. So you can take a little bit of learning from everybody. So I consider everybody as mentors, even if they're not coaching you or somebody that you're not talking to about things and challenges in your career, or what is it that you're trying to do. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so today is about leadership styles. There's 5 of them. And it's really about what kind of legacy that you want to leave behind. I ask you to take down your ego. This is not about who is better than you, who is lesser than you. This is not what this talks about. This is basically taking off the Band-Aid and showing everything, and it's all in the raw. So I'm hoping that some of the things I say, you write it down. You can see where you fall. My suggestion is that you take a little bit from all the leadership styles, and based on your business and based on the type of leader that you want to be or that you think is healthy, and we'll go through all that, that will fit you as a person. This is to get you to think. I'm not here to judge you, to tell you that you're wrong or you're dumb or you're stupid or you have... That's never what my life's about, and anything that I write or put out there online, that's not my mission or my purpose. Is to get you to think, to say, okay, I need to do this better for yourself so you can live a healthier life. In your brain, it starts with your brain first. I always say that. It starts with your brain first, and then your body will follow. A lot of people do the opposite. And that's not correct. You have to start with the brain first. You have to be feeding your brain, great food. Food is like medicine. And that, in order to be able to do that, you really have to know yourself as a person. Okay, so today I have a lot of great notes here. So I have a lot of things written down so I don't forget. So during this coffee talk, I want to talk about something that affects every business, every family, and every leader, which is leadership styles. Many people think leadership is about authority, but leadership is really about influence. The way you lead determines the environment people work in, grow in, and sometimes even leave. There are 5 styles. The first one we're going to discuss is the dictatorial leadership style. I always have trouble saying that word. This is the I say, you do style. This type of leader has total control and makes all the decisions. Employees are expected to follow rules without question. One-sided leadership, my way or the highway. Okay, so generally, what I see is sometimes when I'm helping a business or a business at the corporate level or even a small business, as I said, that leader or that team had me come on to come help them. Usually what I see is that this leadership can be red flags in so many different ways, because there can be a high turnaround in this type of style. Again, this is dictatorial leadership. If someone suggests a different idea or approach, for example, the leader shuts it down immediately. Like it's like I said, it's the leader's way or the highway. That's this leadership. That doesn't matter what your team says to you or bring to you, or ideas or opinions or anything that's said. The leadership, the person who's running that team, or the leader or the supervisor, I flip pages, sorry. Anything that the leader is saying, only that leadership goes, not the, my words are getting jumbled, not the, its team or whatever. Okay. So they could say, hey, I have this idea, but the boss or the president is like, no, they shut it down. They're like, we're not going to go with that idea. Or, no, I think it's better we do it this way. So if you know of anyone like that, or you work for somebody like that, you really need to look at your values and your integrity and see if that place where you are, I'm not telling you to quit your job or what you're doing, but the people that you work for, or the company or the business, you really need to see if that is really a good fit for you. Okay. If there's this type of leadership style, it's very hard for anyone to grow under this type of leadership, because it's always the leader or the person running that business or the company. They're always right. Nobody's ever right, and they're always wrong. And that's why it even causes people to leave. Also, imagine a business owner who runs their office like this. This is just what I was just saying. They walk into the room and say, this is how we're doing it. I don't want questions. I don't want suggestions. Just get it done. Okay. So sometimes you don't hear, I don't want questions. Sometimes you don't hear that either. And sometimes you do, but they just want to get it done. They don't care what your input is. And just think about it. Most of the successful businesses in the world that go very far, I can think of a few. They don't have this type of leadership because they have a full-fledged team that does it better than them. Okay, that does the work. If it's somebody that's really good high tech at the computer, if it's somebody who handles the operations part or the communication part, if they're not very good at communication or relaying the message or the emails, they have somebody that does it for them. They just tell them what they want to say. Now, with AI, you can use that as your editor and get your point across. Sometimes people take advantage of that, and when you do that, it doesn't even sound like you anymore. I've seen there are companies that are, or businesses that are, take it a little bit too far, and it ends up not being them anymore. So that can be super dangerous. They walk into the room and say, again, this is how we're doing it. I don't want questions. I don't want suggestions. Just get it done. Okay. So this leadership is where they have absolute control. Okay. So if you're running a business and this is the type of leadership style you do, the dictatorial leadership, basically you're having absolute control. Meaning your way is the right way. There's no other way it can be done. You don't want questions. You don't want people trying to change things. You don't want people's input, nothing. There's no partnership whatsoever, no collaboration. It's just orders, right? Don't get orders confused with direction, okay? Because direction is more like, okay, I'm guiding somebody, or I'm kind of delegating or telling somebody something or giving a direction to do something. Orders is completely different. Okay, so the result of this type of leadership is that this style gets short-term obedience, but rarely builds long-term loyalty, because their team and the people that are working for them, or even their partnerships, they get so frustrated because there's no compromise. It's always the leader's way, and they get frustrated when it's not their way. Years ago, I've worked for somebody like that before, and it's very difficult. And so, or a challenge, I should say. However, it also taught me a lot in that experience, and I'm sure everybody, and if you haven't, I'm sure hopefully you'll be able to understand this type of leadership, what I'm saying, or you can always Google it, or you can chat GPT it to understand this type of style. But usually nobody's happy in this environment. It makes it very difficult. And you have a lot of frustrated employees or frustrated assistants or the operations. Everybody's frustrated, and you have high turnovers with this. So it can make it very difficult. And then there is businesses or companies that do have this leadership, and people are afraid to say anything because they need their job, or they need the pay, or whatever the case is. And that can be really dangerous to your mental health, because, you know, I'm a firm believer that you can change anything. I've seen people do crazy things, and I mean good things, crazy things, to get to their ultimate goal or where they need to go. I've even seen single moms. I have a couple single mom friends who now they're doing so great, and they're so far in their career that they've done everything. They've left a job. If there was somebody under this leadership, they didn't stay in it, because they knew as soon as they could get out or go to a different job or go to something different, they did it. So this style may create fast results. You can get the results fast with this style, but it often limits creativity, and you really don't have any trust among your staff at all. Example would be people don't grow under this control. They grow under, of course, guidance, which would not fall under this dictatorial leadership. The environment becomes one where people think, just do what they say, don't speak up, or don't challenge anything, which can be very detrimental to a company and to yourself. If this is the type of leadership, unfortunately, I don't like to put a label, but some narcissists, sometimes they lead a company this way, not because that they want to. Again, I was a mental health counselor. I studied psychology. I had my degree in that. So I feel that I am educated enough to be able to switching, to keep talking about this and getting you to understand that sometimes narcissists, sometimes for them, it's hard, and sometimes they either run their home life this way, or they'll run their business this way, or their company this way. It's one or the other. And sometimes it's very, very difficult to have that switch from home life in the brain to small business, company, whatever they're doing, or vice versa. They're usually better at one than the other. Again, this is not to put a label or anything. It's just that I was in the mental health field for a while, and I did counsel quite a bit of patients, from Alzheimer's to dementia to psych patients to drug and alcohol to all the patients under the psychosis umbrella that had a range of different things. So I feel that I'm experienced enough and educated enough to be able to talk about this with you. Over time, again, employees stop sharing ideas. Creativity disappears, and people begin working out of fear instead of motivation. So this dictatorial leadership style, basically the environment as a result that you're creating is people to fear you. And that is not a good environment to be in. There are so many red flags about that environment that when you have your employees or even your partner or whoever, because they don't know what they're going to get, they can't come to you with anything, that open door. If that were me and I was working for a company like that, I would have been long gone already. Regardless of the situation or what was happening, of course, I always think about everything before I make big moves or big challenges or what have you. I always think about things before I do them. The next leadership that I want to talk about is autocratic leadership. Sorry, I have my daughter texting me and my husband texting me, so I'm trying to read 20 different things. Sorry about that. The next leadership style is autocratic leadership. Similar to the first one, which was a dictatorial leadership, which is that leader takes total control. Nobody can speak. Nobody can ask questions. They've created such an environment where everybody's fearful to ask them those questions or ask or input or make suggestions. They can't do that. So this is a switch from that leadership to autocratic leadership, which is it's similar to the first one, but not the same. The leader still makes the decisions, but the environment is less threatening. It says, I decide and direct. Employees rely heavily on the leader for direction and structure. Imagine a company where the manager runs the team like this. I've reviewed the numbers, and this is the strategy where we're going to follow the quarter. They explain the plan and then assign responsibilities to each person based on their skills. Okay? So the highlights of this is leader still directs everything. Employees rely heavily on the leader, and less intimidation, but still centralized power. So you tend to see this type of leadership in hospitals, where when you come on as a resident, like a nurse or a doctor, you need that direction, right? You need that type of leadership of when you're in surgery, when you're working with a patient, they're mentoring you. So in this type of leadership, you need direction, right? Direction and structure and where to go in order to learn how to be the doctor that you're going to be, right? You have college. College is one thing. School is one thing, right? You learn all of it by books and practice, okay? When you're a doctor or you're a nurse or any career, right? And then you have residency when you come out in the medical field, or you have, or in a career, right? You have internships. You know, I did internships during my summer. I got my hands dirty to really learn about the psychology field and being a counselor and so forth. So I received that direction and that structure. So that's that structure or that leadership isn't, I don't want to use the word bad because it's not, but I feel like this leadership style, the autocratic leadership style, is for certain environments. Okay, and that would be more the medical field, I feel like. However, when you start working for a company, whether it's corporate or whatever you're doing or whatever career you're doing, it could be, architecture, it could be as a teacher. Teachers, when they're in college in their junior, senior year, they have to do internships. Almost like when they get to their last year, almost like a residency, almost very different careers, but they have to do that. And they will be under a direction of a supervised teacher that will give them in structure, that will give them direction, right? Even though they don't know what type of teacher they're going to be yet, same thing with a doctor or a nurse. They don't know what type of nurse or what type of doctor because they're going through and they're experiencing all the different specialties in that industry or that field that they're practicing in, okay? Whether doctor field, nurse field, even the real estate field. When I first got into real estate in Texas, I had a great broker. I still have this broker, because I'm a sales agent, and that's where I started in Texas over there. JLA Realty, if you don't know of it. John Altick, if you don't know him, he's one of the most best brokers. And Ronnie Deeds, of course, was a great mentor of mine, is one of the best brokerages you could ever work with. I learned so much from them when I first started, and I was very privileged to learn everything possible and experience everything in real estate when I first started. And of course, I had different mentors, and real estate is one of those things that you can learn so many things by books and paperwork, but you really have to learn it on the go and experience it. And then, of course, at the same time, learning all the contracts and the paperwork and going through the different experiences. And even though you think all the transactions are similar or not, whether it was in residential or commercial, they're really not, because your sellers are different, your buyers are different, your investors are different, your the landlords that you work with. And for example, I own my own brokerage now. So I have my own company, which I'm very excited about. And so I lost my train of thought. So there's just a different, in terms of leadership, I feel like different brokerages are run certain ways. That doesn't make it right or wrong, because that's not the discussion we're having. We're talking about autocratic leadership. But again, I was so privileged to learn so much through my first brokerage. And I'm still with them over there in Texas and very privileged. And here in Florida, I own my own, which is Chrissy Sanchez LLC. And I love what I do. I love my clients. I love the businesses that I work with. So, it's so great. And I just think that there's so much, once you understand these leadership styles and how they work and how they go, you'll be able to understand where you fall in that category. I'm not telling you that you're a bad person or you don't know or you're stupid. Again, this is not about politics. This is not about religion. This is not what I'm here to do. So I ask that you don't put that label. This is strictly about leadership. No matter what career, what industry you're in, this applies to everybody, whether you're a man or woman. Okay, so the autocratic leadership style, the results are they can work in emergencies or when quick decisions are needed, but it can also create dependency. long-term can limit independent thinking. Example would be if people always wait for the leader to think for them, innovation disappears. Okay, so employees don't really participate in the decision-making process in this autocratic leadership style. The leader already decided, but the team is given clear direction and expectation. People often think, just tell me what to do and I'll handle it, or the manager knows that plan. Like, I have a few friends that I know that they like this leadership style and they just want to be told what to do. And okay, I'll deliver 150%, right? Because that's good for them and that's what they want to do. And that's great. Maybe they have a really great environment, really great partnerships with this type of style. It's whatever is comfortable for you. People or the environment feels organized, right, and structured, but employees still rely heavily on the leader to make most decisions. Like I said, this type of leadership tends to be in hospitals, or in the medical field, or in a doctor's office when you're learning your specialty, right? And you're exploring all the different areas of nursing or being a doctor, whatever medical professional you're being. Although long-term I've worked in a hospital, like I said, in a psych hospital. So hospitals are completely different environments and they need to be structured. You need that direction. You need that discipline so you can see what type of doctor you want to be or what type of nurse that you want to be, right? Or the same in real estate. If this is for my real estate professionals or people thinking about going into real estate, if you're in a brokerage and you get there and the broker or your mentor only wants you to learn one part of real estate, I'm just going to tell you that it's like being in the medical field and learning the medical field, that you should be able to experience everything in that brokerage, right? When I first became a sales agent in Texas over 10 years ago, I said to my broker, I don't want to be limited in so many words. I want to experience everything in real estate because I want to see if I want to do everything or if I want to specialize, just like the medical field. You have to experience everything in the medical field to know what you want to do when you graduate and do your residency program. Okay, so I was very fortunate enough to be able to experience everything. And now I'm grateful and I'm blessed to be doing what I'm doing, which is commercial real estate and also helping businesses. Again, you go to my website and you can read all about it, www.chrissysanchez.com. So lastly, of the results of the autocratic leadership is that this leadership style provides direction and stability. But if it goes too far, people stop thinking for themselves. There's not much innovation there because they're becoming too dependent on the leader. When leaders make every decision, teams become dependent instead of empowered. Okay? So you really need to think. I feel like every industry with all these styles that I have here, you're going to experience it one way or another. And I think it's up to you to figure out which leadership style that you're under and what you think you need to do better or what you would like to do better. This is to teach you about who you are as a person, your identity, your values, your integrity. Again, I said there's 5 leadership styles. We talked about the dictatorial leadership and autocratic leadership style. Okay, so the next one is democratic leadership. This is where you connect strongly with your brand. Collaboration starts. There's partnerships. Great leaders don't give orders. They ask questions. Let's think together. The leader includes the team in discussions and ideas while still being responsible for the final decisions. Imagine a business owner or broker who gathers their team and says, we need to improve how we attract new clients this quarter. I have a few ideas, but I'd like to hear your thoughts too. The leader invites the team to share ideas and perspectives. The key points of this democratic leader is that leader is still responsible, team participates, ideas are shared, people feel valued, right? They're not, in this type of leadership, they're not trying to seek approval from you. The leader is really trying to partner with you and give you the free range in this type of leadership to share your ideas, whether they're wrong or right. The leader or the type of leadership this is not judging you for who you are and your ideas. Whether they agree with them or not, that's why they have a team who does it better than them when it comes to operations, communication, the emails, whatever it is that they have them on their team for. Like an architecture team, for example. They have different people that do different things on that team. They have the person who creates the drawings out of whoever made the vision for whatever it is, the project that they're working on. They have the person who does the numbers, right? Measures everything, puts everything into the computer system. They have different programs. Some of them I've heard of, but I'm probably going to say the names wrong because I'm not an architect person. However, I do deal with architects. I partner with lawyers, accountants, architects, contractors because I am in commercial real estate. So if the company or the business is not calling on me to help them in terms of leadership, coaching, mentorship, helping their team, whatever it is, then they're calling me under the umbrella of commercial real estate, which is helping them expand their business, relocate it, open their first place, lease their place, and all of that comes with a lawyer, an accountant, contractor, architect, person who's designing their vision or helping their vision come to life of their business and the way that they want it to look to give that customer experience that they're trying to do. The results of this type of leadership is do this, they say, what do you think? So I a little bit more in favor of this type of leadership because you're not only throwing in open-ended questions, but also you want to hear everybody's opinions and suggestions and ideas. And so to me, that becomes a very healthy environment. And that's where in that environment, you're teaching people how to partner together, to agree and disagree. Again, there's no religion tied to it. There's no what political belief. They're trying to come together to fulfill a project or a goal that they're trying to meet in whatever industry that they're in, right? And that's a team. You can walk away and still work together, right? And I think that's one of the things too in this world that there's a lot of people dealing with right now. And this goes for man or woman, that it shouldn't be about who's right and who's wrong. You should be able to come together, whether you agree or not, and still be able to work together and have your opinions or your ideas, whether it's the right fit or not. It shouldn't be about who's trying to prove of what right or wrong. It's you want everybody's ideas, whether it's the right fit or not, right? I mean, when you're developing a car, like Elon Musk, for example, Teslas, right? I mean, those things are amazing. And Rivians, they're right behind them. I mean, the things that these cars can do is crazy. Like, I'm still trying to learn some things about them. And it's just crazy, all these things of a genius who invented these types of cars. It's crazy to me. And I'm still trying to learn. I mean, I can't even imagine the engineer and all of these ideas and somebody who's full of ideas. I mean, that world is so cool when you have to make a car and the system, it's like a full architecture, but it's an engineer for a car. You know, it's like starting something from nothing and building it and seeing what comes in trial and error and testing it and see what comes, what you end with it. So cool to me. It's like when for commercial real estate, when you're helping somebody look for a place or a location or a spot or a piece of land or building or whatever, and there's nothing, and then your client is the person that has a business and you're seeing what idea or their vision, almost like seeing what they have come to life and then seeing how it unfolds and them choosing me to be a part of that journey with them is so amazing to me. I get such a, I know I sound a little crazy, but I get such adrenaline rush out of, okay, this is their vision. This is what's going to look like. Okay, this is what the contractor is helping with. And the engineer put their vision to life in a place. I mean, to me, that's so amazing, right? It's like when you build a house, right? And your house is nothing. It's a piece of land. And then each week or each month you go in and you start watching little things being put up, the walls or sheetrock, right? The floors. Before that, you see all the plumbing and then the different stages. I mean, that gives me like adrenaline rush. Like, that's so amazing. And I love when I get to be a part of that for clients, right? Or even when you own a business and the client says, okay, here's what the challenges are. Maybe they don't know what the challenges are, right? And you go in and they're saying, okay, and I'm looking at all the different areas, the logistics, how it's operated, what they're doing from the accounting to marketing to human resources, et cetera, depending on the company or business. And I'm looking at all the different parts, and then we go to work through each one and see where there's challenges, or, for example, where they're spending too much money or there's too much overhead or what the case is. And then we delete some things or de-escalate or less or whatever and add some things. And then you see the finished product. That's so amazing to me. And I guess that's why I love what I do. But anyway, so democratic leadership, because I can wander off in a tangent because all of this is so amazing. Again, we were talking about democratic leadership style. And as a result, you can tie this as a business culture example. Style creates an environment where people actually want to show up because they're so excited, right? Like I am when I work with my clients. I get so excited to see their vision and their project and what we're going to build together. Employees feel valued, respected, and motivated to contribute. When people feel heard, they become more invested in the outcome, right? Because everybody's been given a voice. They get to hear you, right? And when the leader goes above and beyond to hear everybody's suggestion, everybody's opinion, that team member or that employer feels valued. So I always refer to is a good bedside manner, right? When you go to the doctor's office if the doctor is sitting there, okay, I'm gonna wander off a little bit, but there's been a couple things in the medical fields, and I think that we need to do better. That's all I'm gonna say. Times have changed, society has changed, and I think we're lacking some of that bedside manner. Where client first, you sit there, you listen to them, right? And you either can help them or you can't, or you refer them to somebody. But transparency is a big thing for me, as it should be for you. And this is democratic leadership. This is what this is. Okay? So agents or employees begin suggesting things like new marketing strategies, social media campaigns, networking events, client appreciation programs. The leader listens to the ideas, right? Discusses them with the group, and then makes the final decision based on the collective input, right? So that would be like a doctor or a nurse, bedside manner, sitting, listening to your concerns or your challenges, and trying to figure out with you, their team or partner with you, of how to help you or how to treat you, right? I can tell you if somebody doesn't have a good bedside manner, I'm walking right out. I don't have the energy for it. I don't have the time for it. Because if it were reversed, I wouldn't do that. That's not the way I lead in my leadership style. Everybody wants to be heard. Everybody wants to be given a chance. And you got to hear what they have to say to see if it's a right fit for you or not. If it's not a right fit for you, it's okay. That doesn't make the person bad. That just makes a different phase of life they're going through. I was just having a little bit of a conversation with somebody the other day. It just means that somebody's just in a different time in their life, and you're at a different time. You're ahead in other areas where they still need to go through those areas. And that doesn't make them wrong or a bad person. It just means that you've already done all that area and you're past that and you're up here now. That doesn't make you or them better or worse than each other. It's just that that's not where you are. And you can't expect somebody to meet you where you are if that's not where they are right now. You just can't. You know? Like I always tell my kids, everybody comes with a suitcase and everybody has something to bring in that room or that environment. And if you're curious, ask the questions, right? Stupid question, as they say, not stupid question. Ask any question you want. If a boss or a leader makes you feel uncomfortable about asking questions, I'm going to tell you right now, that's not the leadership you need. That's not the type of mentorship that's going to move you to the next level. A boss or a leader or supervisor should never, and you'll get that feeling in the pit of your stomach or your heart. And I don't know how to make you understand that feeling, and I think it's a little bit different for everybody, but if a boss or a leader makes you feel uncomfortable about asking any question, and they don't have an open door policy or an office hours like a professor would, right? In a college, they have office hours, and that's the hours that you go to ask whatever. Okay, business owners, leaders of companies, presidents, you are teachers, you're mentors. And if you think I'm talking about somebody in particular, good. I'm talking about everybody, man or woman. Why are you in the position that you're in if you can't be a teacher or if you can't be a mentor? That's what you're there for, right? I think one of the hardest things as a boss is your team is going to make mistakes. It's like having children, right? It's very challenging being a parent. This is my analogy. I know that you want to protect them and put them in the box and not let them make mistakes, but you have to let them, even if it kills you, as long as it's not like life or death, you know. Sometimes no matter what you do, unfortunately, Sometimes you can't even prevent that. But you are there, you are not the person that should be taking over their decision making. You should be helping them and guiding them, not being so authoritative where if you have, maybe you have different employees. I would want to know, okay, like I talked about a while ago, I posted a question about titles and labels, about your title and what you do for a living doesn't say anything about you. It doesn't tell me the type of leader you are. It doesn't tell me the type of person you are, right? Your resume is just a list of brief things that you did in your career, or what you currently are doing, or what your experience and how all that plays a role in your life, right? What shows me of who you are is, do you hold the door for people? Are you nice to the janitors? Are you, do you know every employee? Do you know, okay, what they like, what they don't like, what they're skillful at, where they have more challenges? Just because one employee or your team member or whatever it is, or your independent contractor, just because they may not be skillful in one area doesn't mean that if you move them to a different area of your company or a different role, that doesn't mean that they're not better or that they don't know. It's just that maybe the position that they're in, they're not very happy or they're not being fulfilled. And that's where you need to sit with them and be like, okay, again, this is democratic leadership. Bedside manner, sit with them, listen to them, see the challenges, see what's fitting, what's not. If you can help them, if you can't, what resources you have to point to. We are teachers and you have to understand that. If you don't understand it, well, then you need to, there's ChatGPT, there's millions of books. You can, go to a bookstore, you can Google, you can look at the research from Harvard and Cornell, any of the Ivy League schools or any of the state schools, their departments, they're just as good, and see what literature is out there to brush up on these types of challenges. In college, when you're studying, a lot of times they give you different scenarios, like especially in real estate. When you're studying, sometimes they'll give you different scenarios of different things depending on what you're doing. Same thing when you're in the medical field, or same thing when you're doing psychology or whatever you're doing. And they'll give you different things to figure out, especially like in graduate school. If you move on to graduate school, it's usually a small group and you're given different projects, different scenarios that you have to figure out. It's partnerships, it's teams, okay? So this type of leadership can be very healthy. Okay, so let's move on because we have two more to discuss. The next one is coaching leadership. This resonates with mentorship and strategy brand. A coach doesn't just tell people what to do. A coach helps become better. Great leaders create more leaders, not followers. Let's grow together. Leader focuses on developing people's skills, performance, and potential. There is mentorship, feedback, and personal growth. The key points of this type of leadership, the coaching leadership, is that leaders develop people, one-on-one feedback, focus on growth, skill development. This is also very big in the dance industry or athletic industry, where you have all the coaches, and that's what they are. They're mentor coaches, and basically they're supposed to be giving you constructive feedback. What are the challenges? So I always say this type of leadership, and this goes with I always start with the positive thing that they're doing, where their strengths are, where their challenges are, okay? Don't make them And sometimes I see this in the athletic or cheer or dance industry or whatever, that sometimes I see where they start with the opposite. They're giving the negative feedback first. And it could be the student is already, even in the professor world or in the elementary, middle, high school world, same thing. It could be where the student is already having a very challenging time. So if you start with a negative first, this is all constructive feedback. I'm not saying don't be honest, don't be transparent, don't be not encouraging the student, or that's not what I'm saying at all. But always start with a constructive, positive, for example, so I like when you're doing this, okay, we know that you're very skillful. I'm going to talk about dance because my daughters are in dance and they do competitive, and my older one, she is going into that world. She's a commercial dancer. So for example, both my girls are so great at what they do. I'm blessed. They're still learning. They're still growing. But they both have different challenges and different strengths. Okay. And when you get older as a leader, you have to know what your strengths are, what your challenges. You have to be honest with yourself. You have to have your mind up here, because on the days that you're having challenges, you have to be able to revert your brain, whether it's taking a day, an hour, 2 hours, whatever you need to get your mind and your brain focused and back to reality again. Okay? Back to your purpose and what you're supposed to be doing. You have to be able to snap out of it. If it's reading a book, if it's exercising, whatever it is. Okay? Like I said, I mentioned YouTube. A lot of my lives I put on there later, and I talk about that other topic more in detail there. Because I don't want to spend too much time on other things, but I'm just trying to give you examples of each of these leadership styles so you can understand. So if my one child is very skillful in other areas, that doesn't make them not capable, not reliable, not potential, not whatever. Okay? Right now, I'm being very neutral. I'm not going to be biased or nothing like that. I'm explaining you as if I'm a coach and I'm a mentor, which I am to companies that I help team with them or partner with them, or if I'm doing commercial real estate. If one is more skillful than the other, but she struggles and challenges in the other, that doesn't make her that she can't do it or that she can't. That just, she needs more training in the other areas, or she needs more help, or we need to figure out, okay, what's happening in this area? Like if this was an employee of yours, okay, what's happening? Let me see what's going on. Let me see how to help this person, right? But as a coach or leader, don't use that against them. Don't do that, because now you're setting yourself up for an environment that you don't want to do around you. And you got to be careful with that. Okay. And I'm talking about as a coach, when I help the businesses or whatever I'm doing, or a client, and you really want to see what's happening, right? And because that's what you're there for. You're not there to tell them that they're bad or judge them or whatever, or that they're not capable. I'm going to be honest. I think no matter what industry, I think anyone is capable of anything. I know you're probably like, what? You're crazy. That's impossible. Nope, it's not. I had lunch with somebody the other day, and a good friend of mine in the industry, and she decided to share some things with me, and I was just so amazed. I was like, okay, I do have a story myself, my history. But if I were to look at both, I was like, oh man, wow, that took some strength. So I think anyone is capable of anything. Anyone is capable of being successful, being so high, and I'm not talking about money, because everything starts in the brain here. Money will follow. It's not going to happen overnight. If you're going into business or doing other things because you're in it for the money, you're in the wrong career. Ain't happening, because you're not going to lead the way that you were meant to lead, and you need to go through life experience, right? So to end with this leadership style, you really always give constructive feedback first, which is more the positive, okay? Where they don't have challenges, where they could improve on and do more. And then you give the critique or the negative feedback after you give the positive one and say, okay, well, I don't feel like you're doing this, or I don't feel like, then that's where you can be hard on them and push them and say, look, I'm very transparent. I don't feel that you have confidence in this area because of XYZ. And what are your ideas? What do you think we should do? Ask them. Ask your student, ask your employee, okay, what do you think? What are your ideas? And sometimes they may not know because they're so overwhelmed and frazzled, and that's okay. I've had clients that they just don't know where to start when they're looking for a place to have their business, and that's okay because it's new to them. They're not educated in that realm, right? And so that's why they came to me. So I'm supposed to sit down with them. I say, okay, we'll start with this first. Let me send you some locations based on some of the things you mentioned. And sometimes they don't know. And I says, okay, based on your business and what you do, I'm going to send you this. This is the beginning. Don't get discouraged. If this is not what you were looking for, it's okay. You just say, you know what, Chrissy, we'll move on. Let's look at this area. It's called trial and error. And as a leader, you need to have patience. Patience, transparency, integrity, communication. You can't just, it's not okay to start with the negative feedback first. It's okay. Start with a positive, right? Now, if you're running a football team, softball team, back in my day, the coaches were pretty hard on there. Nowadays, I feel like some coaches are a little bit less. They're not as hard where they need to be hard. I do think society has changed in terms of the way children are being raised, boys and girls. There are some red flags that I see, which is sad in the world, because the parent is going to end up dying one day. The kid's going to grow up, and their social skills, that creativity, the innovation, the structure at home, being disciplined, all of these things. And again, everybody's raised in a different environment, right? Once you know about yourself, and this takes life experience, you need that willpower, right? Everything is up here in the brain. And you gotta, with everything in you, every day could be a struggle, a challenge, what have you. But if you're this leadership style, a coach, then it shouldn't be where I'm going to stop learning myself. I'm going to keep learning, whether it's going through conferences, different seminars, reading, workshops. There's Mastermind online. There's so many places and so many resources that you can learn from and pull from. So the results of this coaching leadership is Whether it's business strategy, real estate, or leadership development, growth happens through coaching. Great leaders don't just build businesses, they build people. So imagine a broker or a business owner who notices that one of their agents is struggling to close deals. Instead of criticizing them or taking over the situation, the leader says, let's sit down for a few minutes. Walk me through how you're handling your client conversations. The leader listens, asks questions, and then offers guidance like, have you tried asking the client this question? What if you approach the negotiation this way? Let's role play the conversation together so you feel more confident. The focus is not just on getting the immediate result, but on helping the person develop the skill so they improve long term. Leaders, supervisors, again, you're a teacher, you're a mentor, you're a coach. You're not there to tell somebody that your idea is wrong and mine is right. I'm talking about everybody. Maybe your idea is right, and maybe they have the wrong idea. Okay, but you're there to sit, to listen, to coach them, to ask them the questions, to learn about them so you can see how you can help them. That's it. Yes, they may make mistakes and you may get disappointed and you may get angry, but it's like having children. I mean, why are you a supervisor, a leader, or a mentor if you're gonna go every day having that dictatorial leadership, which is the first one I told you, which is my way or the highway? That doesn't get you anywhere. That just causes such a fearful environment. There's no innovation, no partnership, no team effort. Nobody learns. What are you in your industry or business if this is not the type of leadership that you can portray? You're just making your life and their life miserable. You're living your life unhealthy and they're living their life unhealthy. You're going to push them out. There's a time to be hard on someone. And there's a time where you got to say, you know what? It is what it is. So you have to figure out what is the best way for you to be with your employees, the type of leader that you are. People in your environment shouldn't be fearful to come to you to ask questions or to, depending on what the day is or what's happening, right? Maybe, let me rephrase that. Maybe sometimes it's just not the right time or the day. That's okay. But if that day is every day, then you got to change something. I'm just going to be the bad guy and tell you, if everybody's walking around fearful every single day, you need to change that environment because you're going to lose your business or the people that work for you. Because in order for a leader, a team, a business to be successful, you have to have a team that helps innovate, helps grow. Your team is the one that's making you. They're the ones that you need to be grateful for because without them, you wouldn't have a business. I don't care how skillful you are or talented you are, because talent is not everything. I know some of the most talented people in the world, and I can tell you right now, those ones that are very successful, they will say the same thing. And some of them, every time we have this conversation, or even business owners, other business that I've had this conversation with, they'll say you can be talented all you want. But is how you live your daily life by learning and growing, and that's winning. Not always winning a trophy or always winning a scholarship or proving that you're right. That's just a bonus. So social skills and learning how to work with people, transparency, integrity, all those things, you got to keep growing and learning, and you got to figure out how you're going to keep yourself growing and learning every single day. Yes, we have challenges. You need to get in alignment. I always talk about this. That's just the bottom line. With yourself. Do it for yourself. Don't do it for anyone else. Do it for yourself. And then everything else will follow after that. Okay. The last leadership style is I always have trouble saying this one. The LAISSE, fair leadership. LAISSE, fair leadership. This leadership steps back completely. In many organizations, this can lead to confusion or lack of accountability. Every leader carries influence. The question is not if influence people, not if you can influence people. The question is how. The way you lead determines the culture you build, the people you attract, and the legacy you leave. You lead yourself. The leader gives very little direction and allows people to work independently. This works best with highly experienced and self-motivated teams. But without guidance, it can create confusion. The key things here are very little direction, people operate independently, works only with very experienced teams. Okay. The insight here is that leadership is not about control, but it also cannot be about absence. It's not about position. It's about responsibility. Leadership requires trust, but it also requires presence. The example of this is, imagine a company where the leader hires experienced professionals and then says, you're the expert in your field. I trust you to manage your work and make the right decisions. The leader provides the overall goal or vision, but allows employees to decide. But how they complete their work, what strategies they use, how they organize their team, the leader steps in only when guidance or support is needed. This works best with highly skilled, motivated teams who don't need constant supervision. However, if the team lacks experience and structure, it can lead to confusion, lack of direction, or inconsistent results. So this last leadership, the LAISSE, fair leadership, I always question this leadership because it's not bad, but it's not good either. I think that this type of leadership is very questionable because I think it really depends on your environment. Now, I think that when you become like a medical doctor or a nurse and you become very experienced in your area, I think that you become later on, you become more dependent on yourself unless you need to do something different in that field of medical industry. But I also sometimes, or I shouldn't say nowadays, in the medical profession, that there's a lack of accountability, transparency, communication, and bedside manner. But I also think it's not only the medical field right now, I think it's any industry that this is happening. I don't know the statistics on which one is more than the other. We would have to Google that. But if this is what's lacking in every industry, not only in the medical field, then we have a challenge. We have a bigger challenge than you think that we have to deal with. And so as a leader, you need to really understand which leadership style you are. Okay, I said there were 5. The dictatorial leadership, which is I say you do leadership style, my way or the highway. Then there's the autocratic leadership, which is similar to the first one, but the leader still makes decisions, but the environment is less threatening. I decide and direct, right? The third one is democratic leadership, this is where you can connect strongly with your brand, which this is a very healthy leadership that I think every industry should really work on. And then there's the coaching, or the democratic leadership is also, instead of saying do this, they say, what do you think? Right? They have a team. They want to see their ideas, whether it's the right fit or not. Then you have, and gets people to make them feel valued also, to feel like their opinion or suggestions matter. They matter regardless if it's the right fit or not, whether you use it or not. This is partnership. Coaching leadership. This resonates with your mentorship and your brand that you're portraying. Great leaders create more leaders, not followers, right? They want to grow together. The last leadership style is the laissez fair leadership, which is the leader steps back completely, right? Which can lead to confusion or lack of accountability, because people become very self-sufficient. So if they're not constantly learning and growing on their own in this last leadership, it can result as more of red flags or detrimental than helping you. So in the end, I went over about 25 minutes out of the hour. But again, each topic that I talk about or that I portray on live, there's so much to talk about each topic. And these topics, you can't just graze over them. I have to give examples so you can understand. And it's up to you after any lives that you join me on for you to do your research, right? Try to understand the things that I was saying from whatever live that you participated in, watch and see. My job is not to tell you that you're right or you're wrong or you're dumb or you're stupid. My job is to get you to think. That's my purpose, to get you to think, to try to help you, okay? To understand about yourself, so not that you're not good already, but to better yourself. You have to keep learning and growing. Not that you're 20 or 30 and you say, well, because of my family environment, I'm not going to be anything. That's just right there. You're already cowardly going out of the work. And what I generally see, or even when you're 40, 50, 60, 70, you should never stop learning until the day you depart your life. That's just the bottom line. That's when you wonder why there is these wise people in the world, that when you meet a person who's really wise and you can just sit with them and because, like elderly people, you can sit with them and they have all these stories to tell you, right? And some of them you may not understand at all, right? But some of them you may not understand at all. But you just, it's so interesting to hear, or maybe some of those experiences they mentioned, you might have already been going through. I don't know. The job is for you as a leader, hold yourself accountable, even if it's hard. Your integrity is everything and it will win every time. Don't go against your honest values. If you're in a place in your life, work, career, personal life, you're a leader everywhere, a mentor everywhere, whether it's for yourself or a group. You have to lead your life that way. That's the only way your brain can be at this high power, really high, every day, and you can be able to get through the challenges that you get through. People ask me all the time, okay, Chrissy, this is not my ego speaking, or you can say it is. How do you do it? How do you, wife, a mom, travel, drive every evening, the training, travel with your kids. Your husband travels every week. You both are in your industries and doing what you love and whatever. How do you do it? And how do you raise these two independent humans to be grounded, humble, structured, disciplined? So I'm going to tell you right now, I don't have the magic bullet. I can give you suggestions and you can see how it fits into your family dynamic or your work life or whatever. But I don't. I'm old school, if that's the way you want to put it. I also believe in accountability and transparency. And I also, I'm very communicative with everybody in my family, whether they like it or not. I'm a very direct person. I didn't used to be that way in my 20s. I used to say yes to everything, and after learning about life and people and going through jobs and career and what have you, I stopped saying I stopped saying yes to everything, because there's only, if certain things are not fitting what I'm doing right now or future or whatever the case may be, and that's how you have to look at it for yourself, or the calendar or whatever, I may say no, because I have to do what's right and what's healthy and what's going to work for me. And if someone or people, and you should do this for yourself, they take it personal, there's really nothing you can do. I mean, there isn't. You have to, yourself, you have to be healthy yourself. And that's what comes first. That's important. Being healthy is everything. And your brain is powerful. So I want to end with this because I've gone over almost 30 minutes. Leadership styles range from total control to total independence. The real wisdom in leadership is knowing when each approach is appropriate and how it affects the people around you. Leadership is just about being in charge. It's about understanding how your style affects the people around you, because the way you lead today will shape the legacy you leave tomorrow. How do you want to be remembered? How do you want, that's about what your purpose is in the world, right? When you really care, do you love yourself? That's a question I ask all the time. If you love yourself like you nurture your newborn baby, then you're on the right track, because you're going to do whatever you can, right? Or it's like a cycle. It's like going back and forth, and you don't want that, right? You want your brain to always be in alignment. And I know we all have our days. Which leadership style are you, and which style you believe makes a good team? That's the question I'm going to leave you with. So, 2 things I want to leave you with before I go. Not that you need to know this or not. So, my father passed away in January. And, I think one of the struggles for me is that at times, and I have to, a lot of times people tell me, oh, you're so similar to your father, the way you look, the way you do things and think and experience. I have even people that told me, I feel like I'm getting a sermon from you, and all these things are great, but I have my moments too. I have my days too. And that's one of the things that I miss the most and I never went to my dad all the time or every time, but once in a while I would go, and I needed his wisdom at that moment or that day, because my dad, he did have a legacy and he went through a big life, and he really traveled the world from his brain to his history to traveling, seeing every country and state. He was very fortunate. And so, it is a struggle for me at times, because I don't have somebody once in a while to go to and be like, hey, Dad, what do you think about this? Or what do you suggest? Whether I agree with it or not, I just knew that I always had somebody in my corner. And that's what a parent does. That's why I brought up my father, because if you have a parent like that, which I hope you do, and if you don't, I'm sorry that you don't. But if you have somebody like that in your life, or even a mentor or a partner, you always know whether they're going to agree with you or not. You always know they're going to be cheering you on in the corner. And so as a leader, that's what you need to be doing. That's what you have to understand. And that's what the leadership, the democratic style, is, that unconditional leadership, the love, giving constructive criticism, always being in their corner until proven differently or otherwise. So those are some of the things that you need to think about before I end this call. And so I just wanted to leave you with that. And then other than that, you know how to reach me. You can go on my website, read all about me and what I do, www.chrissysanchez.com. You can reach me on Instagram, which is also, I have a link on there if you want to inquire about my services, you want to have a consult. I do consults for free. For each person, I arrange about 30 minutes to an hour, pretty much an hour for everybody, because if they're a new client, somebody who's inquiring, or depending on what they need my services for, it gives a list on my services for my book now or inquire link, just to kind of see what you're needing, what help with, or whatever. And then we kind of just go from there. It is a process. I do care about every potential client or client that I have. I put everybody on the highest pedestal. I treat everybody the same. I'm very transparent. And so you're not going to always like what I have to say, but I'm the type of person that I need to break down all the walls, because so I can help you. It's like going to an accountant or a lawyer, which I'm not. I do partner with them. But in order for me to help you and give you that full service, I have to know everything. And by law, by due diligence, fiduciary due, whether it's real estate or just business, leadership, coaching, team, you want me to be on a panel, anything that's ever said to me, of course, by law, I keep it all private. That's not even a question. So again, I'm going to leave you with that. I hope that you learned something today. Also, really quickly, my book, I'm so excited, is coming out. I'm starting pre-orders launch. That'll be late October. I don't want to give away the title, but it's definitely all leaders, CEOs, supervisors. It's kind of a memoir, but it's not really a memoir. It's about life and what everybody experiences. Everybody can relate to it. My goal was for it to be like a guidebook you can put in your pocket, have it at your side so you can refer back to, you can highlight, bookmark it, whatever it is to take you through. I'm so excited about this book. I can't wait. So stay in the know. I post every so often. Pre-orders come out soon, late April. I'm so excited. And then the book actually, I have the normal launch, which is late spring, May, sometime in May. And then I will have some book signings where I'm going around to local coffee shops. There is 4 states that I'm going to do, but those are going to be a surprise. So I may be in another state in your area. Can't tell you, but I'm super excited. So stay tuned for my book coming out, and I hope you guys learned something today. I love everybody. Thank you for letting me share about the different leadership styles, experiences, and things with you. I hope you learned something today. Go be you, yourself, and that's it. That's all you have. Be healthy. Love you guys. Bye.